Okay, welcome to Audrey Langhorst's kitchen. We are going to be making borscht in the Alice Kowalski style. Alice, the legend, is ready for action, and Audrey, the daughter of the legend, is ready for action. And then also Darren, the son of the legend's daughter. So I'm kind of a legend too, I guess. And yeah, we've got a bunch of ingredients laid out here. We've got some lists and pots and pans. I've got some pans heating up to saute some onions, run through some ingredients. Salt, pepper, onions, chopped cabbage, some parsley on standby, beet stems, beet leaves, chopped beets, celery, some potatoes on standby, grated beets, chopped carrots, and some dill for flavoring. What do we start with?
I think we'll start with
Saute the onions. Saute the onions.
Saute the onions.
All right.
And then put them aside. And measure the borscht.
So how much onions did we just put in?
This is about 2.5 cups. We're making quite a big batch of borscht here, by the way. It is at least, well, it's 2.5 cups. And cabbage, I would say this is 3 cups, so we'll put the cabbage in the other one.
You haven't been. Cabbage didn't really have to be sauteed.
Okay, and then we'll add the celery to that. Correct?
Sure.
We can add the celery to the onion already, because it takes a while to do. Celery on the move.
No. The celery goes to the for boiling. You don't need to saute it.
Oh,
Just measure the beets.
okay. So we'll measure the beets. We'll just take this Mongo cup over here.
Because the beets take the longest to cook. And especially when they're not young, they stay for a while. Different fresh from the garden.
Well, these are this year's like garden fresh, but a couple of days old.
So what are you saying about old beets?
Old beets take longer to cook. So you have to put them in first.
This is easy. I would say this is 10 cups because 8 cups was right here. And then we still have the beet greens and the stems.
Just the stems.
So that's what, like 1 cup of stems?
Yeah.
2 cups of stems?
1 cup of
It would be
stems.
about 9 or 8.5.
10 cups. Well, Mom, this is 8 cups right here.
Oh.
And this is 6 cups to there. So another 2 cups there plus these.
Okay.
It's guaranteed 10 cups and more.
And then if you take the juice ready, say or frozen from before, you can use that too.
So shredded beets, uncooked, going in the pot.
Right. And I also had some of those sliced beets as well.
And the slices?
Yeah.
All of them?
All the beets are in there except for the stems. Yeah.
All beets in except for stems.
No, the stems go in too.
Oh. Well, I would say they could wait for this.
No, the stems go.
Just the leaves. Leave the leaves.
Okay. And here comes
How much water?
8 cups of water.
Oh, for sure.
And maybe more.
No, you don't need.
More.
You don't need more. But if you can always use chicken broth if you want to, or just plain water or potato broth. Potato broth or vegetable broth is also very good.
Well, see, I don't pre-cook. We won't pre-cook the potatoes. We'll just put the raw potato right in here.
So you just dumped in
12 cups.
12 cups water?
Yeah. No, actually 14, pardon me.
Just wait, you might need more yet. Because we'll wait for the other vegetables. Mm-hmm.
And stems?
Stems are going in.
And you cook these first. We have a container.
Just put the peels on here and then I'll just be able to scoop it off.
Okay, so we're calling the onions done. And a little bit of brown on them, and we are shutting them off.
Yes.
Okay. And cabbage, kind of just getting a little bit wilty.
Needs a few more minutes.
No, just leave it where they are. And just add the onions to them and that's it.
Okay, we're gonna put the onions on top of the cabbage now.
And then shut it off.
And then I'll put the borscht water on there, or the beets
Okay.
on to cook, right? I don't, this one here. There we go, that's done. Borscht, the beets to cook now, and I'll turn the heat up a bit. Turn the heat down on the cabbage.
So to a boil with the beets, or just heat, or what?
Take the heat off the cabbage.
Okay,
Turn
so
the heat off on the cabbage.
no heat on cabbage and onions.
Bring the beets and stems and chunks to a boil, and then reduce heat and simmer.
Okay.
Not only to boil, it has to simmer for at least 10 minutes.
So beets are simmering for 10?
At
That's
least,
the word?
We'll eat even more.
Should be simmering for 10 minutes and at least, and then we'll taste them and see how they're very old or not too old according to their softness. Then add all the potatoes and carrots and the other vegetables.
Okay, so this is Borscht Chat with Alice Kowalski. Woman of the Year, apparently. She's recently won Woman of the Year. So we're talking borscht, and what we want to know is, how do you make the best borscht in the universe? What are the steps? What are the things you need to think about?
I don't think I make the best one because there's so many recipes for borscht, as many recipes as there's cooks. So each one has to do them according to their taste. But there's generally more or less a recipe that you can follow, and then you don't have to have it exactly 4 cups this and 5 cups that. You can put all the vegetables you need, but be sure that there's the most vegetables are the beets. And borscht is a very healthy, one of the healthiest things you could have, simply because it has a lot of vegetables in it. You can also make borscht like with chicken broth or beef broth or pork broth, but it's not my favorite. I like it just pure vegetables.
And beets being the kind of like the core of the whole thing.
Pardon?
With beets being the core of the dish.
Oh,
like,
beets being the main ingredient.
Yeah, because there's like cabbage style borscht that have no beets, and that's just, I don't know.
No, that's
I don't really like that style.
That's not our Ukrainian borscht.
Yeah.
That's what they call I'm not sure what they call it, a Russian borscht or Dukobor borscht,
Yeah.
but the Ukrainian borscht always has beets.
Because I know when I went to some, it was either a restaurant or like a folk fest or something like that, and they tried to sell me a bowl of borscht, and I looked down and it wasn't purple, and it kind of freaked me out. I didn't know what to do.
What did you find?
It didn't have any beets in it. It wasn't purple.
Oh, then it.
And I was just
wasn't.
like, well, did you mix up my order or what's going on? But it was just a different style.
It was a different style, yeah. And the tomatoes are a must in borscht too.
Right.
Tomatoes and dill. You can actually for Christmas Eve, well, you don't add all these vegetables because you have so many dishes. You usually have just the beets, onions, and tomatoes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 3 ingredients that are a must. And dill. Dill is the finishing bit of a hang to it.
And so, what do you do? What do you do with the dill that makes it?
Well, it just has this aroma taste that's different than say than other herbs.
And you were there was a bit of a debate earlier about do you leave the dill in? Do you leave the dill out? Do you tie up the dill?
Well, I usually tie mine up, but some people, it depends if they just have the green dill.
The lazier cooks, we're talking about just throwing the dill in and trying to salvage it out with a hook or something later, but
The bouquet of dill, you can just plunge it in.
the experienced cooks were saying you tie up the dill and you just pull it out as a package deal. So,
But at the same time, if you have just the green dill, like in the spring, you just have the green dill without the seeds, you can just cut that up and use that too and just leave it there.
yeah. Oh, and we just have a quick tomato delivery here coming in straight off the plants. So how important is it to have fresh ingredients as opposed to older ingredients? Like, could you use old beets, old potatoes, old carrots, or does it
Well, no,
does
you
it just
can,
cook
you,
faster?
You can use them later on in the winter time, for instance. People used to have beets in the basements or kept them for a while. But I usually like to do my beets even ahead of time, just the beets ahead of time, and shred them up and freeze them. And then when I make borscht, it's way easier. Then I just add all the other things.
So yeah, you can kind of cube it and stockpile it in the freezer.
And it's okay to add frozen vegetables if you have them too.
And so what about finishing with? You're saying add some green peas, but you keep those out of your original batch?
I usually keep that away from my original batch, the peas, because they don't take much cooking. They get kind of wilty or whatever. And they don't look as good, or maybe not even taste as good, I don't know. But before I serve it, like put it on a stove and then bring it to a boil, then I add the peas, just let them simmer for just a minute or two, maybe even a minute.
And it keeps them green too.
And it keeps them, very nice and fresh looking.
Groovy.
And brings that little bit of a sugary taste.
So there was talk of vinegar, lemon juice, pickle juice, other kinds of sours. What do we do with those?
Usually we add tomato soup and tomato juice or tomato stew, or that's a must in any borscht.
It adds a little bit of tartness to it.
And to add tartness, you can use your judgment. You can add 2 teaspoons or tablespoon of vinegar, depending on how big a batch you're making. You can add a little bit of sugar, just a twinge. You could add ketchup, or you could add, say, pickle juice. There's some from sweet and sour pickling or anything like that. Just your taste and your judgment should be what you should follow.
And sometimes a little bit of lemon juice can be used.
Yeah, lemon juice could be used instead of vinegar. Another thing is a lot of people like to add sweet cream to them. Some like to add sour cream to their borscht just before, once it's in the plate, like.
Yeah.
Depending on your taste. A lot of people like it with a little bit of cream.
So what other kinds of accessories would you throw?
I would say sweet cream. If I do want some, I use sweet cream, not sour cream. But a lot of people prefer sour cream.
If you were serving borscht, what else would you serve it with?
Oh, it's almost a meal by itself. But it depends. If you add all these vegetables, you don't really need much more of vegetables. So lots of times you'll have purahea, vareniki, or you could have just
Fresh bread?
Just bread, say rye bread or fresh buns or something like that. Or you could add, if you wanted to have a chunk of, say, something like a piece of chicken or whatever. But nothing too much, because it's a meal by itself almost.
Cool.
But the favorite is to have purahea with it.
So this is the beet scum.
Yeah, sometimes there's a little bit that you could just scoop it around the outside rim like that and just get rid of it.
Boil down.
Basically, if it looks like something you don't want to eat, scoop it out.
Right, just a little bit. You won't have to do it, just once when it comes to a boil. And then it'll be fine. You want a nice clear red broth.
A little bit of bubbles are okay, but you don't want the funky stuff.
Right.
So the beet test is to see if the beets are cooked.
Yeah, time to add the rest of the veggies.
The rest of the veggies get added. That means the carrots, the celery, and the cabbage, followed by the potato.
Add the tail too, because the more longer it cooks, it's better.
There.
And potatoes too.
Potatoes as well.
And what about this
Stewed tomatoes.
tomatoes and the tomato soup?
Baba says yes, the stewed tomatoes should go in right now as well. And we're hitting the rim of the pot. This is diced stewed tomatoes.
Oh boy.
This is going to be enough to have 20 bowls of borscht, so you can have some the day you make it. Put it in containers.
You might need more water too.
Put it in containers and freeze some for the next week. And add the tomato soup right now as well. And where's my little...
The parsley, that little bit of parsley. Don't
I had it. Oh, there's a spatula right here. Tomato soup is going in. There's the tomato soup, beet leaves, approximately a cup. And we'll dunk.
Not that much. Half of it.
So how many sprigs are we talking?
5 sprigs. And the more...
Even that's a bit too much. Are you sure?
I think that's
Wow.
good. Dunk it.
How thick is it? Maybe you need more water.
No, it's not thick. Okay, and the parsley, shall we add a little bit of it? Maybe we'll chop it up and add some after.
Yeah, chop them up. Don't add them like that.
So we'll just let this simmer for another 20 minutes.
Okay, so parsley and dill have gone in. Basically everything's gone in that can go in at this point, and then we're lidding it. And with a little crack. And
At least
back on.
25 minutes.
We're talking 25-minute cook time here on low.
It's more
So this is the testing.
I think it needs tomato soup. And a little bit more salt. Maybe not for everybody though. Because I generally have more salt than anybody else. A little bit more tomatoes. And then I would add a little bit of either pickled juice or a little bit of ketchup.
Ketchup is sweet.
Pardon?
Ketchup is sweet.
I know it is. They need a little bit of sweetness. That'll be instead of sugar.
Okay, adding lemon to the borscht to give it just a little bit of tanginess.
That's quite a bit north. Here comes Dawn.
Well, the buffalo were all over in the States.
Okay, give it a stir.
Plains.
I always thought buffalo go
Sometimes you even adding half a cup of rhubarb chunks. Just cut up rhubarb is a nice
Just because I
addition.
haven't seen one.